Good evening, everyone. This is Bonnie Kay, and welcome to the Books of Excellence radio show. This is a program for independent authors who are part of our book co-op at www.booksofexcellence.com. The show brings you authors from various genres who discuss their books, their writing process, and their marketing ideas. We also have other independent authors who are not members of the co-op as time allows. If you would like to call into our show to speak to our guests this evening, please get your pencils ready and jot down our call-in number. It is area code 347-308-8613. I'll mention that one more time to you, area code 347-308-8613. First, I'd like to say hello to everyone, and a special hello to my buddy, Fred Martin Del Campo, who is our Spanish interpreter for the Books of Excellence and who also gives me a lot of wonderful feedback throughout the show. He's almost like a silent producer, giving me really good ideas along the way. So, Fred, love to you. Tonight, we have a really exciting guest. I mean, he's exciting to me. I haven't met him, but I've been learning a lot about him through his books and through his videos and YouTube videos and through conversations that we've had, and his name is Klaus Bohn, and we're speaking to him tonight. He's in Canada, in Victoria. So, Klaus, welcome to our show.
Well, thank you, Bonnie. I really appreciate this, and thanks to Fred, he did a little synopsis on my book, Healthy Me.
Yes, he did.
That was so nice. It was so nice of him.
Well, he was really impressed with that video because, well, we'll talk about your videos later, but let's talk a little bit about you. From people who I sent the notice to on Books of Excellence, I'll be honest with you, I used a picture that I found on your website, which makes you look like you're really deep in thought and pensive. But, you know, speaking to you and looking at your videos, you're just such a lighthearted man. I mean, handsome and lighthearted.
Oh, you're so kind.
I'm telling you the truth. I mean, you really are. This picture doesn't really reflect you, except at your reflexing moment. But if you look at your videos, you'll see you are really such a lighthearted man with a good sense of humor. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up.
Well, I was born in Europe, but I was 3.5 when we came to Canada, and we landed in Leroy, Saskatchewan. And that's where I went to school. And at the school, well, we didn't have art programs at all, but I liked sketching, so I did a little bit of that at that point. And then when I finished high school, I went to Saskatoon, and for a very short time I went to university. I thought I could be a lawyer, but that didn't take very long for me to realize that's not my calling. And in the meantime, I was able to get a part-time job in a studio, and I started taking classes. At that time, there would be speakers coming in from various parts, usually United States, and they would teach for a week, and you learned whatever their abilities were. And I took as many courses as I could. I went to the States as often as I could. That's how I learned my photography. And I was very interested in portrait photography because I wanted to have my own studio. So the person that I worked for, he asked me if I wanted to open up a studio for him. And I thought, man, if I'm that good, I might as well open up my own studio. Little did I know what I didn't know. But that's how I started. In 1974, August the 1st, I opened my studio with my wife and I. And the first few months, I thought I wasn't going to make it. But in time, I had photographs hanging in the window, which were very large for that time. And two men came walking by, and the one guy said to the other guy, he said, "Oh, these big pictures you'll never be able to sell here in Moose Jaw." And the biggest one was only a 24 by 30. And a few years later, he came in, and he bought a 30 by 40, so I was pretty proud of myself. And I didn't even tell him the story that I heard him say, that he'll never make it in Moose Jaw. So that's how it started. I was very fortunate. I'm not going to say lucky. I don't believe in luck. I believe in the universal mind to get we can get programmed to what we're good at, and it becomes part of our passion. And photography truly is my passion. And
now, can I ask you this question?
Sure.
I think photography is an extraordinary, interesting form of art. Do you favor any form of photography, as like portraits versus nature versus animals?
Well, I think portraits is the most difficult because each person is an individual, and because I'm an individual, I have to be able to read that person to be able to record my feelings, my thoughts about that individual. Because most people have no idea what to do in front of the camera. That's why I do a consultation, and it lasts about 3/4 of an hour, and I ask them questions, and they tell me a lot about themselves without knowing it. It's called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, because most people say, well, I want a good picture. Well, that means nothing to me. So when I talk to them, I realize if they're kinesthetic or visual or auditory, and I pick up that, and I use that in my photographic session. I don't want them to look at the camera. I want them to look at me because they can mirror me because I know they're what they really are, if they're auditory or visual or kinesthetic, and I use that to get what I feel is the best part out of them. And can I just maybe tell you the story that I really valued very much, and it's in Legacy and Illusion. There's an artist, he invited me to photograph him, and so I went there, and his wife said to me, it's his 85th birthday today. And I said, no. And she said, yeah, he invited you on his birthday. And she said, after you're done, I'll give you a cake, birthday cake. So I went and spent a couple hours with him just talking to him and photographing him, and he taught me a lot. And when it was done, I said to him, I took so many, but I'll just put 10 or 15 photographs together, and you can pick which one you want. And he says, no. I said, what? Are you an artist? He said to me, and I says, I'm a photographer. I didn't know what to say because this guy's a phenomenal artist. And says, when I paint a portrait, I paint one, and that's what the client gets. They don't have a choice. If you paint 10 or 5, they'll always pick the wrong one anyways. So he says, you pick one out of the bunch you have, that's the one I'll buy. Because it's you'll pick the best one that you feel is the best you've done. And that's what. So I learned that, and since then, that's all I do. I show my client only one photograph.
That is so interesting, and it's the one you think is the best, right?
Well, why would I give him anything that I didn't think was my best? It's a no-brainer.
What if it was tied? What if you had 3 you loved?
That happens. Yeah. And occasionally I do add a second one, but never a third.
I was just so interested. You have your site on YouTube that our listeners have a link to, and you have a number of different things on there. But one that that I've actually gone back to. This is my 4th time this week. You have a little video on there called Model.
Oh yes.
And there's just something so compelling about this particular young lady. Can you tell me how that came about?
Well, I went to Toronto to visit someone, and she said to me that there are several ladies she'd want me to photograph her, and this one young girl, she's modeling, and she wants to become a famous model or a good model, and she says, could you photograph her? And I said, well, sure, of course, that's why I'm here, to photograph as many people as I can. So this young lady came in, and I started, and I'd like to give you a little background, I started with reflectors and everything that most photographers would use, and I thought, no, I want it simple as I can, because I wanted to put it in a book or something. So I just put her against the wall, window lighting, no additional reflectors or gobos or anything, a straight, raw image of this girl. Now, the key was composition, the design of it, and also her expression. So when I talk to my client, I try to use my voice in such a way that I can get the client to respond to me as I feel she should. Now, she didn't know any of this. I just said, stand there and don't worry about anything. I'll look after you. And if you look at her photograph, the key is look at her eyes and her lips. They're coordinated. People always ask me, how do you know if it's a good photograph? Is a big smile good? I said, nothing to do with the smile. If the eyes and lips are coordinated, it's a perfect photograph. I can't do anything better than that. So that's how I photographed her.
And it's so interesting. I mean, I even have it on as we're talking. Because when you take a look at this young lady and, you know, each picture, you know, each frame that you have, each pose that she's in, you know, really reflects something different. You know, some looks like, you know, serious mood, some happy. You know, her eyes are beautiful, her lips are beautiful, and, you know, she really is an exceptionally beautiful young lady. And did you ever see her again after this initial session?
No, I haven't. I've been back to Toronto, but I've never called on her.
Never followed up or anything, yeah?
No, I sent her what she needed, and that was it. Just to add on to what you said, of course, every person has a variety of expressions. We're not one-dimensional. So it depends on the purpose of the photograph, and her purpose was to show as a model. So I did give her a variety of looks that she could use, and we all have different expressions, different moods, and so on. But when I do a portrait of feeling or emotion that I'm sensitive towards, because I'm the artist, so it has to please me first.
Do you prefer doing photos in black and white or in color?
I would love to just shoot in black and white if I could, and I did lots when I was in Moose Jaw because I had my own black and white darkroom, and I could print it the way I liked it. When you send off, in those days, the negatives to a lab, they would try to make it too correct, and I don't like things correct. I like things natural. So when I printed I love black and white, but now with digital, you can't get the kind of effect anymore. I can't get the kind of effect that I used to do when I printed my own. So I do more color now.
I was just going to ask, has computerization changed anything for you as a photographer?
Oh, yes, a lot. Yeah, I loved film, and I loved using my RZs and just using maybe it's not the correct word, but it was how can I say? It was in a way that I learned and I knew how to express myself. And then digital came along. Well, first of all, Photoshop, which I learned right away at the beginning because I did like Photoshop. But the digital, I really didn't care for it because it's pixelated, and I could tell, especially initially, it was so pixelated. Now it's getting better. I got D800 Nikon. It's very sharp, and so it photographs quite well, just more like a film camera. But what it is still, it's still not the same for me emotionally, I guess maybe, than film photography. I love film photography. I used RZs, which were large negatives, and then I could develop my own black and whites. And what I would do is I would overexpose them, underdevelop them, and then when I printed them, to learn to print a black and white takes about 10 years. My instructor said about 10 years to really learn how to print properly. So it was quite a challenge, and I really enjoyed it very much. In the darkroom, you're alone, and you can just, get involved with the negative.
Yes, and I think that, a lot of people don't realize how much work goes into a picture. So maybe you can explain a little bit about the process with photography for people.
Yeah, even today, that I don't ever give anybody a raw photograph, ever, or show a person a raw photograph. So if somebody comes in and they want to see more than one, because let's say if it's a wedding, which I don't do anymore, but I had my last wedding I did, the guy came in, he says, I saw you work in my friend's house, and she has so many photographs on the wall of yours, large ones. She says, photography by Klaus Bohn is on the wall, just totally. And so he said, I want you to do my wedding. I said, well, I don't. And he was middle-aged, so his second marriage. And I said, I don't want to do weddings anymore. He says, can you just do one for us or a few for us, and we'll go wherever you want. I said, okay, at the ocean. and we'll do that. So it took a half an hour or something like that. And he said, right at the beginning, he said, I want a huge one for the wall over our fireplace. So I start projecting the one that I like the best, and I usually always start that way, and I talk quite a bit about it, the composition, design, the flow, the feeling, the emotion. And so then I showed him the second one and the third one. He says, no, let's go back to the first one. What shape should it, like, I don't use size, I use shape. You know, people say, well, I don't have a house big enough for a 20 by 24, and I realized using inches was confusing to people. So I stopped that. I would say, this is a sofa size, this is a love seat size, this is a small wall size, this is a bedroom size, this is a kitchen size, this, you know. So people, oh yeah, well, I have a room at the end of the wall. Yeah, okay, that's the shape it should be, that's fine. So I wouldn't have to convince them that a certain inch size is appropriate. It's all to do with viewing distance, is the shape size it should be. So he says, the first one, that's the one I want. What size should I have? I told him, okay, good. That was it. It was so simple. I learned after, when I talked to that photographer, people don't need to look at 10. I've had people say, I want to see them all. I said, why would you want to see the bad ones? I'll never show you my bad ones. Because I don't do any bad ones. That's why I can't show you any bad ones.
Well, that's a really good point. You know, I was looking at your wedding video that you have on your website, and it's just so beautiful. There's several different pictures there of this couple who you're photographing standing by the ocean, and I thought, this is such an exquisite picture.
Thank you.
Do you know which picture I'm referring to?
Yes, I do, yes. You know, my photographs, sorry, I'm just going to say my photographs I have in my book, photographs that I show people, they're my babies, so I know them all personally, intimately.
Yes, this one I think is just stunning, though, overlooking the water. And I think that would be such a beautiful portrait for somebody to hang in their home.
Well, most of my weddings, I always sell a large wall portrait. You know, that's part of the deal I make with the client. I said, you know, if I photograph you in a special way, then part of the process is that I'll show it to you, and then I can help you decide on what shape. The reason I use shape, because a lot of my photographs I've changed, like make them very narrow and long, or square, or rectangular, or whatever, but it has to be appropriate to the image.
How about, do you also do videos, I mean, in the same vein, like ongoing video for a 20-minute video, or are they mostly still pictures?
I only do still pictures right now. I have my camera. I can do videos, very high quality videos with my camera, but I'm still much more interested in stills, because I think the still is sort of like a poem. You look at it, and it speaks to you, and it gives you an emotional involvement, and the more you study it, the more you get involved with that image. A video is just a non-stop, and it's hard to focus in on one part. You know, it needs so many photographs in a video to communicate what you want. It's very different than a still photography. Still photography is totally different than a video. And I have been asked to go to India and to do a video of, the people that pull these carts, and they want it, because that's kind of just fading away, except for tourists. And I want to do something for them. I was asked to, so I might be going there. And then I'll have to do a video. That's what they want. They want the rickshaws photographed with the people pulling. And there's a guy that his father started the rickshaw, and his grandfather, and now he's doing it, but he doesn't want his son to do it. And that's the guy I should photograph. You know, the video. You know, but I still like still. I still like.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, how did you move from being a photographer of beautiful work into being an author?
Very good question. I wrote it down. I wanted to make sure I tell you this. Donna came into my studio. I had a studio in Broadmead Shopping Center, and she came in and she looked around and she saw some of my wedding photographs. She said, I really would like you to maybe do our wedding. And she said, I'll bring in my fiancé, Paul, and we'll I'm sure he'll like your work. So he came in, and we decided on doing their wedding, and so they were happy. I did a engagement, a pre-bridal, a post-bridal. When I did a wedding, it wasn't just doing a wedding. I would have the client be willing for an engagement, and then I would do a pre-bridal of the bride alone in her dress before the wedding, and then the wedding, and then a post-bridal of the bride and groom, and always something very different. And I did that with Paul and Donna. And after we were all done, and he got what he wanted, he said to me, you're a good photographer. You must have a book in you. And I said, well, I've been in books, but I never had my own book. I have a pamphlet. He says, what is that? I said, 50 Principles of Composition. He says, I want to see that. And in the meantime, he went on the Internet, and when I saw him again, he says, the most I've ever seen was 7 compositional factors. And he says, you have 50? I said, yeah, because over the years I kept adding to my little bunch of designs that I wanted to do, and so we put the book together. And that has the most viewing and the most sales, I believe, too. And then the second one, which I like even better, is the art within portrait photography, because I show the photograph and I write about how I felt when I put it together, how I got to her, what enabled me to make that photograph. So each photograph is very uniquely individual. And then I did coffee table book, and it was for BC 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics. And I wrote, can I just read this for you? I just wrote
Yes, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I didn't write too much in this book. I just showed photographs. It says, photography has always been an expression of my vision, not merely documentation. The art in photography goes beyond what is in front of the camera. What has been within the photographer's imaginary mind. How to accomplish this with an apparatus we call a camera, a mere machine. To focus on the result, the outcome, the end product. A chef once stated that when he makes a new dish, he can taste it before it's made. As a photographer, my vision is the end result. How I achieve it makes it art. So that's my little saying in that special coffee table book. Hello?
Well, I'll tell you, I think that's really an interesting way to put it. I mean, that you can compare that.
Yeah, because, I want to see the end result as much as I can so I can achieve it. Otherwise, if I have no end result, it's like there is no end result in mind, so I can't achieve anything that is at the end, that is in my mind, in my heart, in my feelings. And so,
I know this may sound like a silly question to ask you, Klaus, but as an artist and a photographer, as I, believe a photographer and artist are, one and the same. Do you look at life differently when you're looking at, all around you?
I'm taking pictures with my eyes all the time. People say, how come you never carry your camera with you? I said, well, the reason is twofold. Number one is, when I have a camera in my hand, I don't even take my camera to my family's place, to visit my family, because if I take my camera, I'm working. I can't listen to anybody. I'm focused. If I have my camera, I don't want to talk. So my relatives, if they want me to bring a camera, they have to pay me because I'm working. So I don't bring my camera with me at all. But I'm always taking pictures with my eyes because look at the lighting on those trees. So I can program that into my mind so that if I come across that again and I have my camera, I've already studied it and kind of given me an idea how I would like to capture that. And,
yes, I was always wondering because I think it's so interesting that, when you look at different pictures that people see things differently, just like with any other kind of form of art. But you can have two people looking at the same, picture, and yet still it looks different to each one. And I think there has to be a lot of thought put into that on your part when you're taking these pictures, right?
Well, I've been influenced by, photographers way back before I was born. and like Stiglitz and Steichen and Edward Weston, and they all died before I was born, but I studied them and their concepts of what is artistic photographs. Every photograph is not an art piece. It just isn't. Just because somebody has a good camera and they're lucky and get a good photograph, that's not talent, really. What you need for talent really is what comes from within, how you felt about making that photograph and how you designed it. Talent meets skill. We have to also have the skill. Now with digital photography, unfortunately, you take 100 photographs, you're going to get a couple of good ones. So it's not skill. It's just so easy now. So what I've learned, I went into a course and the guy said, you here, take 2 shots. That's it. And bring it to me tomorrow. That's it. You can't take 100. You can only take 2. And that was before digital, so he would only allow us to take 2 pictures. So you spend a lot of time to figure out what kind of photograph you want to make that would impress the instructor. And today, it's too easy. It's too easy. Oh, I had a lady come in one time. She says to me, oh, my daughter takes really good photographs. I said, oh, how old is she? Well, she is 16. I said, she hasn't even had any education. How could she take good photographs? Well, she does. She does. Well, to me, that's ridiculous. It takes training. It takes a mindset. You know, it's very much from the heart. That's why it used to be my slogan, and now it's my brand. Feeling more deeply about photography. That's what I want to teach. And it amazes me how that began. I was determined to teach because a teacher said to me one time, if you want to learn, teach. So I decided in 1984, before I had any degrees or anything, I was going to teach. And I didn't even have a name for the class. So the lady phoned me up. She says, I'm not taking your class unless you have a name for it. You have no name for it. So that night I went to bed, and beside my bed I always have a pen and paper, and I was in the alpha level. In the morning when I woke up, I had it. I wrote down, feeling more deeply about photography, and it's never changed. It's never changed since 1984, because that's what I'm all about, to show people that very aspect of photography, that they could feel more deeply about how not difficult, but how much they should appreciate photography.
And what I think is so interesting, in the little verb about your book, Legacy and Illusions, which I found interesting, is that how you talk about the different, unique compositional elements as far as the use of space, depth, and form, for many photographs. And also the different techniques from both the great artists and photographers of our time. So I think that a lot of people just don't get this. They think you go and take a picture and you're a photographer.
Exactly.
Without realizing how much thought and work goes into this. Am I right?
Absolutely. And I studied with people like Joseph Karsh and Ansel Adams and people like that are no longer with us. Rocky Gunn and Monty Zucker and all the greats that I had time with. D.H. Moore, I flew all the way out again to see him and spent a day with him. I wanted to feel their spirit and how they portrayed photography. You can see it and you feel it and you can hear it in their voice. And, people don't even know who Joseph Karsh is. He's the greatest portrait photographer that ever lived and ever will live. They don't even know, these photographers, don't even know that. To me, that's a disgrace. You ask a doctor who was the first person to give a heart transplant, the doctors would know. Here you're a photographer. You don't even know the greatest portrait photographer on earth. And he's passed away, but I had time with him. So now that legacy from these men have influenced me to make what I make. And now I'm leaving a legacy behind for others if they read my book or if they take my class. Can I just tell you how I made the cover of Legacy and Illusions? It's quite interesting.
Yes, I would like for you to tell me that because it's a very interesting cover.
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine, we both started our studio about the same time, the same year, I believe. And one day we were talking. He says, Klaus, we were doing panning here. We were playing around doing panning. He said, you ever tried to do the opposite? I said, what are you talking about? I never heard of such a thing. Well, go with the camera the other way. I've never done that. I've never seen anybody else do it. I don't know. So maybe a year later or something, I was sponsoring a stock car. And I said, I want something unique. This is a photograph for me. I want something unique. So I thought, I'm going to try this. Go the opposite way with the camera. The car is coming from left to right. My camera is going from right to left. And I took 3 shots. This is not working because I couldn't see. It wasn't digital. It was before Photoshop, and I couldn't see. But I was fortunate. The middle one was great. When I saw that image, I said, I'm going to have to put this on a book someday. And and if you look at it, the 23 is stretched. The wheels are stretched. I've never seen a Contrapan. I named it Contrapan. I've never seen one before or since. This is the only one that I've ever seen that I made. And I will never try another one because I'll never, my point is this is my original. When I do what I call original, like going up with the snowbirds and, calving and some of those are my originals. I'll never duplicate them again. Where a lot of people would say to me, well, you got this one good, you should do more like that. I said, no, if I think it's my original art piece, I'll never duplicate it. So even with the snowbirds when it went up, can I just mention that story?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Yeah, they were in Moose Jaw where I was, and I photographed them a lot, but I was never up with them in the plane. And one day they asked me to go up, and it's a difficult thing to go up with them. You lose all your life insurance and all that stuff. But anyways, I went up, and we got good photographs, and the one I liked, and they all liked it, and it was okay. But I said, I can always do better. I want something of the snowbirds that's an art piece for me. So I was daydreaming about that, and I was in the alpha level, and I noticed on my table there was a yellow button. So I took the yellow button, I photographed it. This was before digital, and I sandwiched the yellow button with the snowbirds, and if you look at the photograph, it looks like the snowbirds are flying right into the sun. It was the only way to accomplish it. Today with digital, I suppose you can mock it up, but this was an original idea. And that's what I'm after. It's originality. Even when I photograph people, I always say, well, I'll want to make it original for me, and hopefully you can appreciate it.
Has there ever been a time throughout your career when someone has said to you, I just don't like it?
Yep, lots of times, and I've got some stories for you. I don't care what person asks me. I always have a story because I experienced it. A lady came in. I just started in business, and she came in, and she threw her proofs down. We had proofs in those days, and she said, look at these. She says, they don't look like me at all. I said, oh, they look like your sister? I don't have a sister. I said, who do they look like? I can't photograph something that's not there. Well, they sure don't look like me. And I was fortunate, and again, intuition, I took her photograph and I held it in the mirror. Well, she says, now that's better. I said, you see yourself only in the mirror. You don't see yourself in a photograph. When you look at yourself in a photograph, you don't like it because no two sides of the face are equal. So therefore, you look at yourself in a photograph and you don't like it because that's not the way you see yourself, but that's the way everybody else sees you. And it's, well, that now makes sense. So
that's really an interesting way to look at it, right?
Exactly. So when people say, well, I don't like my pictures, I say, you don't have to like them. As long as I like them, that's okay.
Do you tell them to look in the mirror?
Yeah, I tell people that story a lot because when I do my consultation, I says, I have absolutely no rules except you can't say you don't like them. That's the only rule I have, because if you don't say that to me, you're telling me you don't understand the photograph. Otherwise, you'd never say that, especially because I have my master's, my craftsman, my fellowship. Can you imagine if I had my photograph taken by Karsh and I'd say I don't like it? Well, I would be a fool to say that.
Exactly. Well, I think a lot of people don't really appreciate all the work that goes into this, and that it is a form of art. It's just not going into a portrait studio at Sears and having your picture taken, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I do the consultation, because I educate the client to appreciate my efforts. I really do. I really put a lot of effort in educating the client. So that's
let's talk a little bit about your book about, your new book about healthy
eating.
Yep,
Healthy Me. Sure, yeah. I like what happened, how that came about was my daughter had a child and then my son had a child. And so my daughter said, she likes bananas, because of you, she likes bananas. And she'll eat bananas 3 a day, and she's so little. And is that good? And I said, of course. Whatever she likes is okay because she has not been trained to like things that satisfy your taste that has been manipulated by the people that are putting the product together. Stay away from the middle of the store, just on the outskirts, buy the stuff on the outskirts. Anyways, my daughter is very interested in health because I'm interested in health, and so is my son. So I said, I'd like to do a book of the two grandchildren. She says, okay, but don't make it thick because my daughter can't carry a big fat book. She doesn't like, she likes little skinny books so she can flip through them really fast. And she says, I like to sit and read to them. So that's how this book came about, Healthy Me. So there I have a picture of Pippa eating a banana, and little Charlie's got a great big carrot. He loves veggies, and it says, I love fruit, and then Charlie says, I love veggies. So that's how that book came about, was that I wanted to portray the grandchildren, that grandparents or parents can read to them and enjoy their time with the child, and the child can be educated, and so can the client, so can the parent or a grandparent.
Those pictures of your grandchildren are absolutely stunning.
They're cute.
I mean, they're beautiful, beautiful, adorable children. How old are they now?
Pippa is going 18 months or 19 months, and Charlie turned 1 in the end of October, so whatever that comes, 14 months or something.
Yeah, just adorable children. So do they appreciate having a book? Were their pictures are on the cover?
Around. Oh, yeah, they come around. Yeah. Pippa especially, she was so proud of it. That's me.
Now, are they inside the book also or just on the cover?
Yeah, there's inside the book. There is a picture of my daughter with Pippa and my son Michael with Charlie. And my daughter is cuddling her when she was very little. Tammy just was very close. So it's a great photograph of feelings. And then I also put photographs in here of myself with both children, with Pippa reading to her, and with Charlie I'm holding him. And then I have a son, I should say, he's just got married. I was in Mexico in November, and he got married, and I added him too. He's holding each grandchild independently. So it's sort of a picture book of my side of the family. And then in the book, what I like is easy to read is one page. It says, fruit and vegetables are a natural food for the body to stay healthy all your life. It is great to enjoy what we eat. And then it goes through in the book about different fruits and vegetables, and then it also goes into a little bit of exercising. And also I wrote in here, I didn't write a lot, just very, very short, but this is the longest thing I wrote. Life is full of imagination and daydreams. May we keep our childlike fun with us always. And then I have a picture of a cat, which my daughter dropped off one day to me a number of years ago. His daddy just take and babysit him until I moved to Victoria, and then I'll pick him up. Well, when she came to pick him up, he hid. He wanted to stay with me because we bonded. And so I still have that cat. And I have a picture of that cat laying on his back, stretching.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, that one. Yeah. So I have different animals and birds and insects, and a butterfly. I wrote on it, loves to just hang around, and different things in the book that suggests health and beauty and love. Here I have two hummingbirds flying together, and I wrote on it, hummingbirds enjoy friendship, be my friend. And just simple things that a child can relate to, and it's not something really, it's not a thick book, it's not a sophisticated book. The last picture I do want to mention, because I find that this new generation, because they know how to use the computer and their iPhones and everything, even when they're young, they seem to be a whiz at everything, and older people like grandparents don't know, and they look up to them. But really, that's not wisdom. That's just technology. And I have a picture of an elephant, and on the elephant wrote, and elephants are wise with age, and we got to appreciate older people. In other parts of the world, they really give a lot of appreciation to grandparents and great-grandparents, and here we seem to kind of not appreciate them, you know, and so I try to my daughter brings Pippa over to visit my mom a lot, and that's important.
Yes, and in fact, in that book, you know, as we mentioned earlier about Fred, who had written a little critique on it, you know, I thought it was so nice when he said that it's simplistic and it has a good message for kids. And he even says that we should not lose our childlike wonder of the world.
Yeah,
and I think that's such an important message that you're giving out there, Klaus.
I'm trying. I'm thinking of doing another book, children's book, and it'll be a larger one, and it'll be all about animals. Because, you know, we live in the big cities and we hardly get to see any wild animals or natural places. And so I thought maybe that might help to add to it, to the child, you know, older children, maybe 5 years and older. And I have a lot of photographs. I just have to do the writing and get Paul to do it for me again.
Does a lot of work go into a book for you?
It does, yeah. It does. I start a book, and then I leave it for a year, and then I go back. Like my Legacy and Illusion took probably 4 years. You know, when you read it, you think, well, why would it take so long? Because I had to be in the right frame of mind, the right condition of heart to put it together the way I did. Yeah, it takes me a long time.
So let me ask you this question. You're a photographer. Was this talent passed down to your family? Because I think I was reading about your son, right?
Yeah, David, he was very much into photography, yeah. Well, actually, both of my sons worked with me for 7 years in Victoria. When I moved to Victoria, I asked Michael, I said, I wanted to leave Saskatchewan because I got divorced, blah, blah. And so he said to me, let's move to Victoria because Grandma is there and my aunt is there, like my sister is there and my relatives, all kinds of relatives. So we moved here. So he started with me. We opened up the studio together. And then my second son, David, which was always interested in photography, he came and joined us. Then Tammy, my daughter, she wanted to join us. Says, oh, I can't have 3 children working with me. So anyways, I worked with my sons for 7 years. And then I said to them they could have my studio, and they said, Dad, it's too difficult now. We don't want to carry on. So they all got different jobs, which they make a whole lot more money than if they would have stayed with photography. So when I started photography, I was very fortunate. The timing was so right. David said that often to me, Dad, your timing was perfect because you made lots of money because of the timing. Now it's very difficult, and that's true. Now I branched off into books, and I have 5 affiliated websites. I have 2 of my own websites, and I'm affiliated with 5 others, actually more. And each website has a purpose. One website does G Clays. Another website does my T-shirts and my calendars, beautiful calendars. Another website does other things like ImageKind. If let's say you want to buy one of my photographs, you can add 3 different mats on it with different colors. You can add 7. There's 7 different papers from around the world. There's different frames, and once it's all put together, you can hang it on the wall digitally and put color on the wall that you would the same color as where you want to hang it, so you can see everything before you buy it. It's a wonderful affiliated website, just beautiful.
And how do people get to your website?
If you go to www.photographicartbyklausbone.com, and you'll be there. That's my new website that I'm putting together right now. It's pretty well put together, but there's still some fine-tuning that I'm going to do with it. Well, a website, you're forever changing it. But it'll have that, and I have my YouTubes, and my books are on there. Everything's on there.
I was just curious, when you were doing your video for your book for your grandchildren, or the children's book, Healthy Me. And now, it's just so interesting to watch how you fade in and fade out. How is that done? I was just curious. Who was doing the video?
Who was doing the video? A guy here in town. I belong to Island Trade Link, which it means that you'd swap. So instead of giving money, he did this for me, and then I do something for someone else, and it's in a pool, and so that's how people get benefits. And
that is great.
Just joined Island Trade Link, and I was looking for someone to do this. All my other videos I did myself, and they're not professional. But when I went to him, I was very impressed, so I had him do both right away. And we're going to do some more. He's going to interview me, and we're going to do some videos of together. And I have a lot of ideas. He's just starting, but he's very good. I thought he did a great job, but he's just starting really into this business. So I want to help.
I think he did a great job too. I mean, I thought it was just so impressive. The way, like, boom, you're there, boom, you're not, and then you're on to the next frame. But it was just such an interesting video.
He used a green screen behind me so that you could add those photographs the way he did. I love the way he did that plant that grows from the bottom up. That's so impressive.
It is very impressive. So that's why, people can go through your YouTube link that, I have on, that I sent out to people, and really go and look at all these videos, because one is more interesting than the next.
Well, I'm going to add a lot more videos because this is what I wanted to do at the end of the show here, but I can mention it now. I started videos in 2008 or someplace like that. Right now, I just checked it out. I have 176 countries that have viewed my videos. To me, that is the best advertising anybody can do. Even if you write a book, do a video. All these people, 176 countries have looked at my videos. Isn't that marvelous?
Yes, that is amazing.
That's the best advertisement there is, really, because then they can see the artist, the writer, whatever. You can get a feel for them. They know, their personality a little bit, and you can emphasize the high points in the book. And it's just a no-brainer for advertising. The only cost is if you have to pay for the videographer for doing it. But after that, it's free advertising.
But what's really great about you on this particular video, the Healthy Me one, and your other videos are a little bit different. But what I really enjoy is that you're so natural on them, and that you're so natural that you seem like a professional. I've seen other authors who have done videos on their books, and they look extremely unprofessional. They're sitting there reading from a piece of paper what to say, and, where you're just out there talking, like, from your heart, like you're a professional about your book. So I think that that's an important thing. If people are going to invest in doing videos, you have to know your product, right?
Absolutely.
Did you rehearse this a lot before you did it?
No, I see. I've been teaching since 1984. I don't try to rehearse too much. And if you look at my book, Legacy and Illusion, you can see when I was speaking, I was a little hesitant a few times because I wasn't sure how I was going to bring it out. And in a video, people can see it over and over and over again. But I don't rehearse a lot, but I think it's important that you do rehearse, yes. And the thing is, when he videography, he can do it over and over. I mean, when I was doing Legacy and Illusion, there's pieces that I did over and over again to get it the way I wanted it to feel. Yeah, so that's the beauty of it. It's that you can redo it. If you have a professional, they know how to guide you and say, well, maybe you can repeat that and do it again and give whatever, But he didn't say that to me. I usually say, I want to do that one again. It's sort of like a movie. They do movies here in Victoria, and I was watching a movie, and they did the same shot over and over and over, and I thought, that poor, woman that was doing this, she must go crazy 10 times the same thing. Well, in videos we can do that. We can make it more feely, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Like my original ones are not perfect at all, and even the ones that are professional, I like people that are not perfect because I don't like my work to be perfect. I like it to be natural.
How about the video called Home Movies 1?
Yes. Yeah, somebody did that one for me, yeah. That was way back.
Yeah, that looks like it was a little while ago, right?
My kids were little and they're in their 30s.
Exactly.
Now. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah. A friend of mine, I photographed him, and it was the first time I shouldn't say a friend, a client, first time I ever sold 40 by 90, ever in my life. I was so excited, and I wanted him to do something for me. And he said, well, I have an 8mm camera, and he said, I like doing videos. And I said, can you do it? I'll pay for it. And do me videos. So he did 2 of my videos that you see there, the number 1 and number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty excited. Then when I found that, and it was an 8mm, I had to get it changed and blah, 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 a lot of work. But I got it, and I thought, I made CDs, DVDs, and I gave one to each of my children. But I thought I should put it on YouTube. And so I did,
I find it so interesting. I mean, I feel like I know you and the family. It's really great. You have your own station here on YouTube. You can really get to know you well. That's why I felt like I knew you before I even got to talk to you. I really did
sweet.
a lot of listening to you and watching your children. They were beautiful children. Little. And they must love watching these on YouTube also, right?
Oh yeah. They just about cried when I gave it to them and showed it to them. They couldn't. They didn't even know that I had the copy, because moving from Saskatchewan here, I could have lost it, whatever. And one day I found it in a box. So I thought, what am I going to do with it? Oh, someday maybe I can find somebody who will put it on a DVD. And then I did find somebody, and that's how it all arrived to where it is now. And the thing is, I want it for the future, for my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and it'll be on there,
Exactly. And it can be a reminder to you of the days when you didn't even have one gray hair.
Well, that's not hard to get rid of.
Yeah, you could do that again, too, I guess.
But you're right. Yeah, we look back, and that's not what was impressive to me. It was how skinny I was. I'm still fairly not overweight too much, but I'm much heavier than I was there. Yeah, that's what impressed me.
Well, that with age, now that you're in your 50s, maybe.
Yeah.
That comes with age. So don't feel
bad. It does,
bad.
but I'm working on my health, and I'm working on my, I do yoga, and I do, Pilates, and try to get myself into a reasonable shape for my age. Yeah.
Mhm. So do you ever go out on any dangerous assignments?
Yeah, going up with the snowbirds was very dangerous because when I went up with them, the guy veered the plane. He says, if we hit a bird, we'll go down. If it swallows the bird in the motor. And oh, my goodness. And he said the guy that went up with us last time, he threw up 5 minutes after we went up because we pulled 5 Gs. I couldn't lift the camera off my lap. And the rehearsal was that if the pilot says, pull this lever, you got to pull it. You have 5 seconds to pull it, otherwise you'll go down with the plane. And I said, I'll go down with the plane. I'm not pulling no lever. And it was scary because, your belly is in your mouth, and you're supposed to come up with a really great photograph. Oh, my goodness, I came down, and people said, are you all right? Are you all right? You look green. Are you all right?
Wow.
So that was a very, very scary experience. Yeah. And then even my calving, not that it was scary, but I went to Alaska because I wanted to photograph calving. So when we got to the ice fields and oh man, the ice was breaking off and everybody was getting the same photographs I was, and I was not happy with it. And I thought, I went all the way here and here, I'm not getting it. And as we were pulling away, and I believe again in programming what you want, and maybe you'll get it, you should get it. And so I saw the ice break, boom, 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 boom. And so when I put the photograph together, I have 3 photographs of the ice breaking on top of a large photograph where the ice splashed. I've never seen a photograph like that. And I sold 30 by 40s of that because it's so quite unique, even for me, So that was dangerous, but it was frustrating and feeling that I wasn't going to get something unique, and I did. So I was happy. Dangerous.
I just always like to let people know, who are not part of CCB Publishing, because you and I are both members of that family, and a lot of our authors are. What a wonderful pleasure it is working with Paul. So if you could just say a word or two about that.
Yes, like I told you, how this all started, this writing, was through the wedding that I did with him. And we became good friends, and he's a very gentle, kind person, and he really puts so much effort. He never, ever made a spelling mistake in my book, ever. And it's just amazing how maybe I can just tell you this. When I was doing the first book, I thought my writing isn't quite right, blah, blah, blah. So I was going to hire this person to write it out for me. And I think he read something of what she wrote, or I told him about it. And he says, Klaus, don't do that, because she'll write it perfectly. And it should be like you are saying it. And I thought, well, that sounds great. A friend of mine had my first book, and she read it. She says, Klaus, when I read, it sounds like you're talking to me. You're whispering in my ear. It's written like you are. And she says, I love it. And that's what Paul has done for me. He wrote these books, helped me write these books in such a way, my personality is not only in my photographs, but also in my writing. And I really appreciate that from Paul.
Yes, and I think what you really can't appreciate is that, Paul was your first publisher. So many of us were scammed by so many other publishers that you just can't imagine how much we appreciate him. And his integrity. I mean, if you had to pick out one word out of the whole vocabulary about CCB and Paul, to me it's integrity. And when so many of us have been scammed and robbed before, it was so wonderful being able to find someone whom we could trust, that we knew our books were going to be out there, that we were going to receive royalties, things that didn't happen for us with other publishing companies.
Can I just say one more?
Sure, go right ahead.
Just one more quick thing before we're done. Is the first book he published was Donna. The second two books were mine. So that's pretty good, that I had the privilege of being the second and the third publisher. But
how long ago was that?
2008, I think it was 2008.
No, I think it was before that.
It could be. Let me just grab my book here, and I'll see. I should say right here, my 50 principal composition. Where is it here?
Yeah, it seems like I've been with Paul for longer, but it's possible. I think I've been publishing through him.
Oh, maybe it was longer, but I can't find right now the date on my book. Where should it be? At the back here? No. Anyways, I looked at the front and I couldn't find it. But anyways, whatever year it was, it should be. It's my.
Whatever year it was for me, it was my lucky year. I think for me, it was
my lucky year too.
2008, maybe for me. So I thought maybe you're a little before. Maybe.
Yeah, it would have been very shortly before that. Yeah. Donna was his first book about the cats, which I was impressed with. Yeah.
Yes. Well, like I say, Paul has really come to the, side of so many of us and really given us new hope and new life with our publishing, because we have so many wonderful authors that are part of, this group. So we'd like to say hi to Paul. And thank you, Paul, for bringing us together and bringing Klaus to this show. Klaus, you're just such an interesting person to talk to. I mean, this hour has gone so quickly. Are there any last thoughts you'd like to say?
Yeah, just why don't you guys fly me out, and I'll photograph all of your authors. What I do for myself, you mentioned about my picture. I do a self-portrait every year. So that was self-portrait.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you can buy your books on Amazon.com, is that correct?
Yes, there's lots of places you can buy it.
Lots of places, and you can go
to on my
any place.
My website has a listing all the places where you can buy it.
Many beautiful photographs on the website. There's so much you can see of Klaus's work.
And I hope somebody could email me if they're interested in talking to me. That'd be great.
Klaus, it went so fast. Would you mind coming back again in a few months?
Anytime.
That'd be wonderful. Well, we'll have you back in the spring.
Perfect. Yeah,
all right, so I want to thank you so much.
I'll tell you.
Okay, you were a wonderful guest, and to all of our listeners, and to Fred Martin Del Campo, good night, and we'll be back next week. And thank you again, Klaus. We'll be talking to you in the spring.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you so much.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.